Good everybody, I'm Scott Poynton and welcome to another podcast. And I have the pleasure today to introduce you to Stephanie Lentz. And I'm talking to Stephanie all the way from Seattle in the far northwest of the United States. How are you, Stephanie?
I'm doing well, thank you. How are you?
I'm doing well too. And look, Stephanie, we're talking to Stephanie because she's doing some amazing things in the sustainability space, and she is the founder and CEO of a company called Scoop Marketplace. And she's got this fantastic little line, which I thought I'd share with you before we get started. The future of food, the way it used to be, which I thought was really, really fantastic. And it says, so we'll just lead in a little bit, zero waste grocery shopping, plus teaching people how to improve the quality of their lives while learning to walk more gently on the planet. Stephanie Lentz, welcome to our podcast.
Thank you.
We'll come to the Scoop Marketplace and what you're doing there shortly, but I'd love to know your backstory. How did you come to be founding and opening this amazing marketplace? What's the Stephanie Lentz story to this point?
You know, it's quite a roundabout story. I often am a bit surprised about where I ended up, but I've lived in the Pacific Northwest my whole life, and I was always interested in nature and, recycling and doing eco-friendly things. And I've always enjoyed singing and horseback riding and drama. I love the theater. And I wanted to grow up to be an elementary school teacher. So I did. And that didn't last particularly long. I discovered that while I like teaching and I like inspiring and sharing skills with someone that they can then take and use to improve their lives, I didn't really like being confined to the school system, and I wanted to go and teach in my own way. So I started exploring that. And I was teaching cooking and baking classes, and I was teaching dance fitness classes, and I was teaching choreography to little kids, and just kind of whatever was, I just like to follow my passions,
Mm.
And then I decided I was ready to have kids. And I kind of thought that was going to be it in terms of a job or a career or anything like that, because that was what I really wanted. I've always wanted to be a mom, and I wanted to have lots of time with them, and I wanted to be able to bake at home with them and go on adventures and explore. We love to travel. So I have two young kids. My
How
son just
old are
turned
they?
7.
7, right. Yep.
Yeah. My daughter is 4.5.
Okay.
And my husband has been a firefighter for the past 10 or 11 years. And we just enjoy spending time together. We like tea parties and dance parties and snuggle fests and reading books together. And after becoming a parent, that's when I started really researching just the impact that plastic pollution has had on the planet. Started learning about microplastics and the fact that they found tiny bits of plastic in the, deepest bits of the ocean that have been explored, and also in the air at the top of Mount Everest. And that really freaked me out. So just really as a means of protecting my children and our future, that's what really got me moving into more of this like everyday activist role, I guess is what you might describe it as. So it's really just about making slightly better choices each day, and finding opportunities to use reusable items instead of disposable items, limiting the trash that's coming into our lives, limiting the possessions that are coming into our lives. Yeah. So like I said, it's a bit roundabout. And at the heart of it, I'm a baker, I'm a singer, I'm a mom, I'm a teacher, and I just happen to own a zero waste grocery store.
You just happen to own one. Well, look, as I said earlier, I looked at your website and there's another little line there which I thought was really great. And you just mentioned it there, making progress. You talk about taking imperfect action and a willingness to focus on progress over perfection, and that this can help you navigate our broken systems and improve your quality of life and lead to a more sustainable future for all. And it really captured me. Talk to me about this imperfect action and, this move for progress rather than perfection. I love it because I do see so many people torturing themselves and beating themselves up because, they're worried about the environment, but maybe they did buy that product that didn't have exactly the green footprint or something like that, or maybe they did take that flight for a holiday. And I really loved this idea of making progress. So tell us a bit about your philosophy there.
I think this mindset is essential. And I think that it might have started a bit as a way to, justify for myself, just giving me grace, when I wasn't able to have the perfectly sustainable situation. And I realized that everyone else needed that too. Everyone else needed permission to live their lives. And there's so much that is completely out of our control. We are operating within broken systems, and we've got this very linear economy. Some of us live in areas where we don't have access to zero waste grocery stores or bulk food sections or even just more sustainable alternatives. And I was thinking about people who decide that they're going to go zero waste. And that this trend a while ago, are you familiar with the glass jar trend where you fit all of your trash for a year into a jar? Have you seen
Oh, I
that?
have not.
So it was really popular for a while. I was seeing it on several different blogs and things like that. And I was very anti trash jar. I was like, that is what's going to get people to quit zero waste living,
Because they're
because
not going to make it.
I'm the type of person, and it might be an American diet culture thing, I don't know, but I'm the type of person where it's like, if I decide I'm going to try something new, like a diet, for example, and then 4 days into it, something happens that maybe is outside of my control, or maybe was an emotional situation, and I was feeling a little bit weak in that moment, and I mess up the diet or I do it wrong. Well, I've ruined it. Now it's over. Might as well wait till January 1st to try my diet again.
Right.
And people can't approach sustainability that way, or
Right.
we're not going to make it.
Yeah.
So I needed people to be willing to just keep taking imperfect action, keep finding, what's the next right choice or better choice that you can make. And it's not always clear and it's not always easy, but if we're acknowledging the progress that we're making, and if we're at least kind of giving ourselves a pat on the back and celebrating it, then it does something, psychologically. It allows your brain to say like, oh, cool, I did that right. Let's do more of that. I like those good feelings. I like that energy and those good vibes. And then you kind of keep that momentum going.
In the lead up to opening the Scoop Marketplace, what did you find when you were going to, you're in Seattle. It is a really advanced city, I think, probably in the world in terms of consciousness is my sense. That's maybe a generalization, but I certainly know there's a lot of people there who look at these things. When I set up the Forest Trust in the US, our US office is in Seattle, and that was because we found people there who were very committed to these environmental causes and sustainability. So I would imagine, I could be completely wrong, is that as you were out there shopping, did you find places that were better than the average? Of course, in the US, you've got all the big supermarket chains. What led you? Was it frustration, or just like you just thought you could do something more, you could go further? What led you to founding the Scoop Marketplace?
I do think you're right that it is in many ways a lot easier living in this area. We do have access to quite a few different services, whether it's recycling or composting, or even we've got some specialty recycling organizations. We have one called Ridwell, and they put this box on your porch so you can recycle things like batteries or light bulbs or styrofoam or bubble mailers that you have a hard time getting rid of. So we are very lucky in that sense. What I was finding is that while we have several different supermarkets that have bulk food, package-free food, and you can get those things without packaging, there are certain things that might go on your grocery list that they're either really difficult to find in bulk, like you have to go to a different location or go to a different city to go to that specific grocery store because you know that they sell pasta in bulk and all the other ones just sell it in a package. Or in some cases, you can't actually find it locally in bulk at all. And you end up maybe having to, go online, and it comes in a little plastic bag that's wrapped in another plastic bag. And it was really expensive, and it has significantly increased your carbon footprint. So I just decided that I needed a grocery store that better aligned with my family values. It seemed strange that we couldn't go to the store and buy food without coming home with trash. And I knew that there were options. There aren't perfectly zero waste options. There's always going to be some waste involved. But by buying a large quantity of something for all the customers in my store to shop from, then we only had one big package.
Right.
Instead of that 50-pound bag of something being portioned out into 51-pound bags, it is decreasing the impact. It's decreasing the waste that's involved. So that was what really started it. And I was seeing stores like this in other places. I've noticed that there are quite a few more in Europe. It still is kind of a newer idea here in the States. There are starting to pop up but it was interesting, looking at these stores being built around the world and saying, oh, Seattle seems like a prime location for this. I'm kind of surprised no one has done it. And then the other motivation was, I mentioned that if you want the package-free pasta, you might have to drive to a store in a different city. Those of us who are making the conscious effort to shop package free, we know where to go to all the different locations to get all the things. What we want is all the zero waste living essentials in one location. So it's going to take some time, but that is what I'm building with Scoop Marketplace.
So tell us about Scoop Marketplace. What is it like when I walk into your store? What am I going to see?
Scoop Marketplace is a zero waste grocery store. So you bring your own reusable containers, any clean, dry container that seems suitable for food. And then you can shop from our package-free food, home goods, and personal care products. So these are bulk products like laundry detergent and dish soap and hand sanitizer and sunscreen and shampoo and conditioner and all kinds of things, whatever we can find. So you bring your empty containers, we weigh the containers and then tear out the weight of the container itself so that we're only getting the weight of the product. And then that's what you pay for. It's all pay by weight in the store. And then we also sell items that support a sustainable lifestyle. So that would be things like biodegradable Band-Aids or compostable dish brushes. And it's just, these are essentials. These are things that we use in our daily life, but we've taken the time to do the research and connect with the makers who are making those things more sustainably and using ingredients that are going to go back to the earth in a safer way. So we're taking the guesswork out of the process, and we're really providing a service by doing that research and asking those questions so that as customers identify with us and see, oh, my values are aligned with Scoop Marketplace, they can also trust that the products on the shelves have been thoroughly researched and that those are also going to be in alignment with their values.
So when did you start, Stephanie?
It's been a little over 4 years since I originally had the idea. I did some research for a while, did some business planning, started doing pop-up shops in 2018 probably. And then I had my first brick and mortar store we opened Earth Day of 2019. So it's been 2.5 years since I opened my first store.
Okay. So in that time, are you finding that, I hope the answer is yes, but interested to know, are you finding that when you started, the range of products that you could offer with all of these, these compostable, biodegradable, all of these qualities that you just mentioned, you had X. What does X look like now? Is it X plus 10%? Are you seeing a bit more interest in the manufacturing of these more sustainable products? Is that, are you able to expand your range and offer more to your customers now because people are catching on? Manufacturers are catching on?
It's interesting. There are certain items that we searched for a long time, searched high and low for a plant-based option or a package-free option or plastic-free option and couldn't find them. And now all of a sudden they're popping up. So that's been exciting. I think the other cool thing about it is that the more that we kind of gained brand recognition, we had people coming out of the woodwork, coming to us and saying, I make this thing. I think it would be a great fit for your store. Would you be interested in trying it out? And that's exciting to see all of the incredible things that are actually made right here in our area in the Pacific Northwest, because there's so much creativity and innovation and passion. And we really want to support those people. We love supporting small local businesses, particularly minority owned businesses. We love telling their stories on our podcast and giving them space on our shelves so that other people can learn about their mission and the work that they're doing. And I think that the more that people see how we're offering these products, at least the smaller businesses that have some flexibility, they start to say, you know what? I might be able to offer my product in bulk. I've never done it before. I've always put it into individual containers with my brand on it. But I think that there's a way to share this with your community and decrease the amount of packaging that's required in the process. So I think that it causes people to think a little bit and it gives them a more expansive view of how they can serve.
Bit of a ripple effect. You're pulling entrepreneurs into your store in a way where they now think they have a market for these products that they're making, and you're inspiring others to follow suit. We'll come back to that in a minute because I know you've set up Scoop Intelligence, which is your online courses to try and spread the learnings. But let's come back to that in a second. I'm interested, when you talk about your research, your research into these products. obviously, yeah, biodegradable, recyclable, all of these things come into it. But just if you could just talk us through what sort of things you're looking at, because, from my background, when we worked in TFT, the Forest Trust, set up the Forest Trust, we were looking, right up into the nether regions of these quite complex global supply chains. Now, it sounds like a lot of your supply chains are very local, which is fantastic because you're taking a lot of the carbon footprint out of that. But what are the sort of things you look at, like environmental issues, human rights, and social issues? Just talk us through some of those things.
Definitely. There are so many.
I bet you've got a big list, right?
Oh my goodness. Well, and you've just mentioned all of these different things, and sustainability is multifaceted, right? So there's all these different angles that you can come in at, and each one of us is going to prioritize different elements of sustainability depending on what phase of life we're in, depending on our current circumstances, and sometimes it's completely dependent on the product. So there might be instances where, for my family, for my household, I'm going to choose the organic one that's wrapped in plastic because it's more important to me that there were not pesticides on the food that I'm going to feed my family. And in another instance, I might have a little bit more flexibility and I can say, actually, I don't want that like certified organic fancy one that comes from far away because there's a local option right here. And even though they're not certified organic, they have organic practices. I'm really excited about what they're doing that is aligned with our values. So the way that we start is we have some non-negotiables. And that means, we've got just a short list of things that it's like, is it this? Is it this? Is it this? Is it this? If it doesn't meet our requirements, we don't need to ask any more questions. It doesn't belong on our shelves. And then we kind of take it to the next level after that. So in terms of non-negotiables, at this time, our store is fully plant-based. We don't have any animal products in our store. We don't sell anything that has palm oil in our store. And then all of our food is organic. And again, we understand that organic certification can be really expensive. So we're looking for people with organic practices. And we do ask a lot of questions around that. And that's the next step, is where it gets a little bit trickier, because then it's like, okay, is there a good local option that ticks all of our other boxes and is still, the level of quality that we need? Or do we need to look further away? And sometimes what ends up happening is we find a brand that's more well-known. It's easier to find out what's happening with their business from a sustainability perspective. So we start with that brand. For example, tooth tabs or something like that. Our tooth tabs used to come from far away. And then again, a vendor just comes out of the research, someone from Oregon, comes out of the woodwork and says, hey, I make this product just down the freeway from you. Would you be interested in trying it out? We love it when that happens. So that's when we're looking at, okay, is it local? What's the packaging like? Do they have an option for bulk? So the tooth tabs are a good example of, they sell us their tooth tabs in their super cute little branded jars, but those jars are designed to be reused. So we also sell the bulk stock so that when you finish it, you can bring the empty jar back in and fill it up again.
I love it. And I also love that you're not requiring people to get certified. I'm not a great fan of certification. Wrote a book about that at one stage. It's so expensive, and there's so many small operators who just can't afford it, and they get excluded from the market. So, yeah, good on you. I'm really glad about that. And, I don't doubt that, as you say, you go and nonetheless check that they are using organic practices. They just don't have the certification. All right. So, look, you've got 2 stores, as I understand it. Is that right?
We do. And we have 2 locations right now, and then an online store as well.
But you're trying to share the knowledge. You're trying to share the lessons that you've learned. And this is where your passion for teaching has come together with your passion for zero waste shopping. So tell us about Scoop Intelligence.
Well, when I was starting this process and I'd made this decision, I was going to start this business, and I started working on the business plan, I had a hard time, getting information. I would reach out and ask people, how did you open your store? How did you get started? What are my next steps? And they either didn't have time to share, or they felt, protective of their knowledge and experience, and maybe also a little competitive since I was starting a similar business.
Right.
And I was really surprised by that, because I thought I was like joining the team that was saving the world, and they'd be like, oh, thank goodness you're here. We really need your help.
Another one to the team. Isn't this fantastic?
Exactly. Yeah. So I just kind of decided from the beginning, when I know how this works, I want to make sure that the people who follow after me have access to the resources, because I went looking for a digital course. I would have paid a mentor. I know the value of learning from someone else's knowledge and experience instead of spending the same number of years that they spent trying to build that knowledge and experience yourself. So then, of course, people did start reaching out to me saying, I want to open a store just like yours. How did you get started? And I didn't have time. I couldn't even respond to emails. I was so busy. And so when this idea of a digital course was introduced to me, it just was so amazing. It was so energizing to me that I could teach and have an impact in this way. And I basically packaged it up into a digital course, and it's a roadmap for opening a zero waste store. So I start at the vision, really start at just like when it's just an idea, and then take them all the way through to the grand opening. I share all the steps I took to open Scoop Marketplace, but I also have infused it with everything I've learned since then, all the things I wish I'd known when I was getting started. And I don't hold back. I give them the first draft of my business plan and let them see, like, here's what I thought was going to happen. Here's what actually happened.
Right.
I share my numbers. I share my top sellers. I share my vendor list. I give them everything. It's actually very, very vulnerable. Some of it is it causes me to kind of go back through that process of what it was like building that first business plan and the uncertainty. And I share with them when I'm going through, like, my current students, my current members, I share with them when I'm going through hard stuff. And when we had the fire this summer we talk and we get very real, and being a small business owner is really hard. And I think that having a community like this, like the Zero Waste Heroes community, it reminds us that we're not alone. And there are other people out there fighting for the same things. And we can lean on each other. And if we share our resources and we share our contacts, it cuts back on the work that we have to do. And we can get down to business and serve our communities and actually build that sustainable future.
I love it. Look, I'm in the process of setting up a second nonprofit, having set up the TFT back in 1999. And I'm seeing that a lot of things are happening that happened back then. But of course, when I did it the first time, it was all a mystery. There was no course. There was no online course. There was no one to say, this is how you do it. What I love about what you're doing is that we haven't really got time for people to make all the same mistakes again. And we really need to accelerate this transformation, don't we? So that, for example, in my case, how to set up a nonprofit would probably be a great course where I can share all the things that I learned, all of the frustrations. And I also loved what you said about, like, this is really hard. It's not easy being a small business owner, or I guess not even a big business owner, but when you're a small business owner and you're just getting started, it's all a mystery, right? And you encounter things that you've never seen before, and having someone, and it's pretty lonely. That was my experience. Mm-hmm. It's very lonely and very daunting, and you've got to be absolutely passionate about what you're doing because you will hit so many walls and so many obstacles. So I love the idea of your community that just gives people that support. And how's that going? Like, you've got your courses, and I mean, how are you finding it? Are people dialing into your courses from, I imagine, all over the US, but any more outside the US? Are you seeing zero waste stores like Scoop Marketplace popping up now in other locations?
Definitely. There are a lot of new stores opening. And when I was getting started, I was looking for a Facebook support group, and there was quite a large one in the UK of people who own zero waste stores or wanted to open zero waste stores. And now, as of this year, I think there's actually one that's been started for the US and Canada. I think it's still at about 100 people or something like that. But even just the fact that there are enough people to have a group together, that's really interesting. So it's been challenging for me to reach the people who need my course. When people find it, it's like, oh, this is exactly what I was looking for. I wanted a mentor. I wanted someone to walk me through the steps. Thank you so much. This program is perfect. You give so much more than I expected. I can't believe how many resources are in here. But just getting the visibility is such a challenge, because these people in general they're not like congregating in a Facebook group, like waiting for someone to come show them how to open a zero waste store. And they come from all walks of life too, So I've had students all across the United States. I've had a student in Australia. I've had a student in the UK, and just figuring out how to connect with these people and get the resources to them has probably been the biggest challenge for me.
Well, look, it sounds like it's working, and I know you've got your podcast. We will certainly promote your Scoop Intelligence courses. We'll release the podcast. We'll make sure we've got all the links in there and the blogs and things that we put out there, because I think what you're doing is terrific. And
Thank you.
You've got your podcast as well, right? You do a podcast, and the Green Stuff podcast. Tell us a bit about that.
I was looking for a way to just share. I love using my voice. That was really a big motivator for me.
You're a theatre person, right? A singer. And,
yes,
yeah.
Exactly. I'm a performer, and I've always wanted to do audio books or, be a voice actress. And so that was very appealing to me. And I also love having these conversations. And I often think, oh, I wish we had recorded that. In fact, the last time we spoke, we said that, oh, I wish we had recorded that. There was so much good conversation that happened here. So just finding a way to share that with everybody felt important to me. And one of the things that people found most valuable about my social media posts was when I would share the really real life, just kind of like tips and tricks for living low waste. And we've been using the podcast for that as well. So on Tuesdays, we share tips. And then on Saturdays, we have our full episodes, which are often interviews. And it's definitely a reflection of, I mentioned that sustainability is multifaceted. So we have a very holistic approach. We touch on many different aspects of sustainability. And when I'm talking about building a sustainable future, I mean one in which we can all thrive. And for me, that doesn't just mean a healthy planet. It means a healthy body. It means lots of joy and passion in my life. It means pleasure. It means time to take vacations with my kids. And so I want to bring all of those topics into the podcast to give a more expansive view of sustainability for other people, because I think it can be so daunting if we're concerned about saving the planet and feeling guilty for having used a plastic straw and those kinds of things. But when we're really digging into what does it mean to improve the quality of our lives while we're learning to walk more gently on the planet, and we see, oh, this has benefits for me. I will feel better. I will be healthier. I can live a full, thriving, abundant life. That's when people are actually going to get on board, and we can normalize this.
100% agree. And, I talk a lot about well-being, and what are those practices that bring you joy? What are the practices that help you find calm? And this sustainability stuff can be pretty heavy and pretty despairing. Like people say, oh, do you watch this movie, Seaspiracy and all of it? I watched Cowspiracy a few years ago, and it was fantastic, but I can't bring myself to watch all of these movies, because whilst I find them to be incredibly powerful and all the rest of it, they're pretty despairing. And I spend a lot of my time looking at environmental issues and social issues around the world, and the way humans treat themselves in terms of some of the food they eat, the smoking and all sorts of things. I see how we treat ourselves. It's no wonder we don't treat others well or the planet well. And trying to help people find that way of living a more joyful and healthy life for themselves, to me, seems the place to start. And so I absolutely resonate with what you're talking about there, and trying to help people understand that it's possible. I always talk about the art of the possible, because it's a bit like, after watching Cowspiracy, I decided I was going to go vegan, and I've now lapsed to more vegetarian. But, what I found was that a lot of the vegan community were, I felt, pushing people away, because they were sort of yelling at them, saying, well, why are you eating meat? You're evil, and all this sort of stuff. And like, people just, oh, you're a nutcase, and they pulled away. Whereas what I found was people say to me, oh, why are you doing that? And you say, well, I'm concerned for the planet, and I feel that here I am trying to save forests, and so many forests get cut down for animal agriculture. So I sort of feel like I need to be a bit more aligned. And they would say, oh, that's interesting. And then, 2 weeks later, I'd get a message saying, instead of eating meat 3 times a week, we've gone down to 1 time a week. And then maybe a month later, actually, we're eating it once a month. And this is where I loved, as we said at the start, this idea that, don't let perfect get in the way of progress. And
right.
I celebrate these things. And, we've got our My Carbon Zero program now. And when people just take one step, because, the first step on any journey, if you want to be responsible in terms of your climate action and removing carbon from the atmosphere and things, like just eating meat one less time a week has a big impact. What can you do with food waste? What can you do with plastic? And this is what your store is providing opportunities for people to do that, and celebrating small wins and the joy that it gives people, I think, as you say, quite rightly, inspires people to take those extra steps. Oh, that felt good. Maybe I can do a bit more. And then that felt good. Maybe I can do a bit more. And then their friends look and say, geez, you look well and you seem happy. Yeah, because look, I'm doing this. And then off it goes. We start this ripple effect that we talk about at the Pond Foundation. And, I love what you're doing. I think it's absolutely inspiring, which brings me to this question of, we talk about, you mentioned that just then about this looking for a future where we all walk more gently on the planet. What are what are your hopes and your aspirations for Scoop Marketplace and Scoop Intelligence and for Stephanie Lentz and her family? What are you? I mean, it's always great to live in the present too, and so I don't want to have people thinking, oh, I've got to get to this point in 20 years or 10 years or 5 years. But where do you think this journey is going to take you, Stephanie?
No, I will admit it's challenging for me to live in the present. I'm very much a futurist, an idealist, a dreamer. I'm always coming up with new ideas of what can happen later. So that is very difficult for me. And with Scoop, of course, we want several more locations. We want to be able to serve more people in our local community and hopefully expand outside of the Seattle area as well. I definitely want to keep teaching people through the Zero Waste Hero program and encouraging them, as they go through the process of opening their store. It's such an amazing experience. And then to see the impact that they have in their own communities and the way that their communities respond to that has been amazing. We've got sustainable business coaching available, and we're really excited to continue to expand on that and offer more services to help people, if they want to get their B Corp certification or if they want to learn how to write an impact report so that they can share with their community what their sustainability goals are and be really transparent about how they're tracking those goals. So in general, it's always about providing resources, making these things more accessible, taking the fear factor out of how we are approaching this idea of taking better care of our planet. And we've even I love food. So I just launched a low waste plant-based cooking course that I'm really excited about. It's a full, I guess this might be like a very American thing, although I know it's similar to a Sunday roast in England, but it's a full plant-based Thanksgiving or Christmas dinner meal. And I teach through videos and all kinds of digital resources, how to cook this meal. And it's stuff like that. These are the ways in which I feel I've improved my quality of life and life for my family. And we're really building new traditions together that are going to contribute to that sustainable and totally delicious future. So that's been a lot of fun. And for Stephanie, I really enjoy spending time with my family. So my goal is to build my business and really get clear on the role that I play in my business, which is mostly as the creative visionary and making plans for where we're going in the future and determining how we're going to embark on that. And then teaching. I love the teaching part. So that's really fun. But a big part of why I want to take care of the planet is because I want to experience it with my children. And I do want to be very present and in the moment. I want to have that freedom of time with them, hopefully freedom of location so that we can kind of move about and, take our homeschooling or whatever the case may be, wherever we go. So just in general, wanting to be a beneficial presence in the world and wanting to really learn how to take the best possible care of myself and set a good example for my children and whoever else happens to be watching me.
Well, I think that's extraordinary. You're already well started on the journey, and it's inspiring, Stephanie, to hear what you're doing and just the power and passion that you speak with. And it's clear that this is something that it's not come to you in the last 5 seconds. You're really living this, and this is your dream. And I really want to congratulate you for what you've done, and I'm so excited to be able to have this connection with you and keep an eye on what you're going to do in the future, because I think it's going to be pretty exciting.
Thank you. I'm so glad we connected. There's so much more for us to talk about. So we'll definitely you'll be on the Green Stuff podcast for sure. I'm really excited to learn more about what you've done and your experiences. So it'll be an ongoing conversation.
Well, I look forward to that, and thanks very much. And well, look, we will share Stephanie's all the websites about Stephanie's, the Scoop Marketplace, Scoop Intelligence, and Green Stuff podcast when we share this podcast. And Stephanie, look, wonderful. Thanks so much for talking to us, and we look forward to hearing more about how you're going over there in Seattle and more broadly, and the global network that you're establishing of zero waste stores and supporting people to establish. And I think that's the beautiful thing you're doing. You're putting it out there as a gift, and I think that's extraordinary. So thank you so much.
Thank you, Scott. This was a lovely conversation. I really appreciate the opportunity.
Good on you.